We do want to bring in experienced trial attorney and legal analyst Megan Whiteside. Megan, it's good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Natasha. It's great to be back.
So, Megan, we're talking about thousands of pages of court documents being released about Jeffrey Epstein in recent days. What is standing out to you and what has surprised you the most, if anything?
I think, along with anyone who's been hearing about these documents, it's the nature of the criminal enterprise that Jeffrey Epstein ran and just how tragic it was for those young women, young girls involved. Sadly, there are not a lot of surprises. There are not too many names that we haven't already heard before. And as your correspondent just said, none of the names that we are seeing in these depositions, in these deposition exhibits, no one has been charged with a crime. And that goes to the workers who were working for Jeffrey Epstein, whether drivers or people working at the mansion, who seemingly knew that this was going on all along. I think on a human level, that surprised me that so many people knew what was going on and did nothing.
I want to talk about both of these things you bring up. So first of all, we are seeing these high-profile names mentioned in these new documents. Do you see any indication that any of these men were involved in the abuse, like Bill Clinton or Donald Trump?
There's nothing in the documents that have been unsealed that indicates that any of these individuals committed a crime. There's no smoking gun, like we like to say in the law. They were associates. They attended parties. They came over to the mansion. They flew on the private jets. But there's nothing in the materials that we see that's actually indications that anyone observed a crime taking place. I'd like to think if that information was available in the civil lawsuit that these documents come from, that those individuals would have been prosecuted at the time that came to light.
Oh, wow.
So it's just associates, but not exactly information.
Didn't mean to interrupt you there. I do want to follow up with what you mentioned about that driver, right, who claims that he was tasked with driving girls to the mansion who looked like they were 16 or 17 years old. What is the likelihood that these individuals who were involved in this way or who did not say anything could be facing criminal charges of their own going forward?
Well, criminal charges, if any, may have already been time barred by the statute of limitations. Depending on what a local prosecutor would be looking at, the statute of limitations may only have been 2 to 4 years. This individual was not committing any sort of sexual assault or sexual battery based on the information in the documents that were released. And so it might be too late if there was anything that could have been done. It's really a sad state of affairs that these young girls were subjected to Jeffrey Epstein's scheme, and there were people around him who could have sounded the alarm.
Yeah. Megan Whiteside, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.